Hey, what's up you guys? This is Steffi, aka In My Humble Opinion, and welcome back to another Fan Reaction Friday video, but this one's a little different because I am not reacting or reviewing any particular episode of TV, nor do we have a new episode of American Horror Story Apocalypse since that ended, RIP. But in today's video, I am going to be answering your guys' questions that you had for me in today's special American Horror Story Apocalypse Q&A. I'm also recording this right now. It's Thursday, 4:51 p.m. So yes, I am recording this on Thanksgiving. So if you left your question for me after that time, sorry, it didn't make the cut, so you can just ask it again. Okay, here we go. Let's just get into this Q&A. The first question is by Charlie Green. And Charlie Green asks, are you really totally satisfied with Apocalypse? Because I liked it, but my girlfriend wasn't. Was it more of a Coven 2 and not enough Apocalypse? Tell us how you really feel and rate the season out of all 8 seasons. My answer to all of those questions is yes. I was genuinely really satisfied with this season. I know there were a couple episodes towards the back half that were kind of like, what are you doing? But to me, in retrospect, I really did enjoy this season. I felt like they had a clear direction that they were going towards. You know how in some seasons of American Horror Story, when you watch, you're like, what is the end goal here? Like, what are we really trying to accomplish? I felt like they had a very clear destination, and because they had that clear destination, the writing didn't seem as muddled as it usually tends to be. I'm sorry that your girlfriend didn't really seem to enjoy it, but I really did. It was really fun. It was a fun ride. And then for your second part of the question, you wanted me to rate the season out of all 8 seasons. I will be doing that in the very end because other people asked me that question as well. The next question is by Eater Razo. Okay, I'm really sorry if I butchered that, but Eater wants to know, do you think that the horror really comes back to this season? Talking about the finale. I really enjoyed the season finale. It was goddamn amazing. I wouldn't necessarily say the horror aspect of American Horror Story came back. The idea of an apocalypse happening is scary, for sure. Satanist church and all of those issues, like, that's scary, but for me, I don't think the horror aspect of American Horror Story really came back this season. For me personally, I think it's been a while since I've been scared while watching American Horror Story. When I think back when I was watching Murder House and Asylum, those were scary seasons of American Horror Story. Scared to the point where I would have to wait until it was daylight and I couldn't even sit down and watch the whole thing. Like, that's how scared I was when I used to watch American Horror Story. And I think it's been a while since it's actually been like truly horror. Regardless of that fact, I still enjoyed it. Alicio Aguilera asked, do you think the government took Tim and Emily because they can spawn more spawn of Satans, and could the government be the Illuminati? I mean, they did say towards the end of the season that members of the Illuminati are like people who are in positions of power. So I'm assuming some of those people would be people who are actually part of the government and part of Congress. 1, I do think the government could be the Illuminati. And 2, I definitely believe that they took Tim and Emily because they could create more spawn of Satans. People in the comment section were saying that Tim and Emily were sort of the backup plan. Like, if Michael died, then Tim and Emily's offspring would be the next spawn of Satan. And that also makes sense why Tim and Emily were in the outpost, because I'm assuming Michael knew that in the event that when he dies, whoever Tim and Emily's child will be the next person to be the spawn of Satan. So yes. Yes and yes. Morven wants to know, what's your thoughts on Madison? If she's the master of 6 out of 7 wonders, why didn't she use her powers to get out of the head-blowing situation? She could have used transmutation. Explain. Little disclaimer here. I am not the American Horror Story fan who knows every single detail of every single episode of every single season. I'm sure you guys have gleaned that from watching my videos. So I don't really know how great of an explanation this is going to be. But my only answer to that, Morven, would be thinking in the finale episode, Cordelia has a line and says, none of our powers will work because he is too powerful and he's too strong. So I'm assuming maybe that's why, even though Madison was able to fulfill 6 out of 7 of the wonders, even though she still was that powerful, because Michael at that point in the story was already a super powerful being, she just didn't think to try using transmutation because there was no point. He's too powerful for that to even be effective. That would be my personal explanation. I don't know if that's a great one, but if you have a better explanation than me, definitely leave it down in the comment section below. Stefan wants to know, I don't understand how at the murder house it makes a difference if your remains are moved off the property. Vivian and Ben Harmon's remains must have been removed from the house when they were discovered dead, yet they were still stuck there, while Moira got to leave after hers were removed. Also, when will you be doing live stream videos again? Okay, so live stream videos will be coming back this Sunday. As far as that whole thing of you don't understand how that works, that's a really good point, Stefan. I don't know how that works either. So again, if anyone has an explanation for that, leave it in the comment section below. Okay, the next question comes to us from Twitter. @Quickman_ wants to ask, how did you feel about the scene in which Cordelia sacrifices herself to save the world? In my opinion, it's one of the best scenes of the whole show. It's so emotional and badass, so I'd like to know your thoughts about it. Thank you for that question, Quickman. I really enjoyed this question. I love that. I loved the idea of Cordelia having to sacrifice herself, because I think that goes to show what a great character she is and why she is the Supreme and why she is worthy of being called the Supreme. She is someone who was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. So I felt like that definitely fits into who she is as a character and the quality that we want our Supreme to have. And it's also a great contrast to Fiona, who they kept mentioning many times throughout the season. There were a lot of biblical references throughout this entire season, and in the Bible, when Jesus was nailed to the cross and before he dies, according to the Bible, he made the ultimate sacrifice, which was his own life to take away the sins from the world. So I feel like that was kind of reflected in Cordelia's own sacrificing of her life. So I thought that was a really powerful and great scene, definitely emotional. I agree with you there. Cat B wants to know, how do you think the new Antichrist will be stopped and by whom? Oh, I don't know. I mean, I would assume if they were to stop the new Antichrist from being born, they would probably have to stop Emily and Timothy from meeting. And by whom? I don't know, maybe Mallory, maybe the Supreme that has come into power after Mallory. I don't know. No, I'm thinking it'd probably be Mallory, because it wasn't that long after the apocalypse happened that Timothy and Emily meet. So yeah, I'd assume it'd be Mallory. Harry Ty wants to know, do you think since Mallory changed the past and went back to 2015 that Madison and Behold never went to the murder house? That would mean Moira's soul was never released, Constance never died, and Tate and Violet never got back together. Opinions? Yeah, in short, I definitely think by Mallory changing the past, that definitely affects what happened in the murder house episode of this particular season. That means that Tate and Violet probably didn't get back together and Moira's soul is not released. Maybe Constance died by now, but maybe she hasn't died. Maybe she's still living in the house. And then as far as like everything relating to Queenie and Hotel, because Queenie didn't end up going to Hotel and she was stopped by Mallory, I'm assuming any of the narrative that pertained to Queenie and Hotel did not happen. So yeah, I'm assuming that all of those things that we saw are pretty much negated. I have no emotional tie to American Horror Story Hotel because that's the one season I still have not watched. And you guys saw my reaction and review to the Murder House episode this season. It was nice to see those people get happy endings, but if they ended up not happening, that's fine for me, so that's okay. Kevin Burrow wants to know, what did you think about Myrtle's timeline in this season? Why did Cordelia bring her back if it wasn't about Michael? Because Myrtle was already there when they first learned about him. Did they mess up something in the timeline or did I miss something? Gosh, I don't know. Maybe the writers messed up a little bit when they were tracking their timeline here and miscalculated the years, but yeah, I really don't. I could be like BSing an answer here and say maybe when she initially brought back Myrtle, maybe Cordelia sensed that there was a danger coming, but she didn't exactly know what that danger was at the time. And then in general, what do I think about Myrtle's timeline in this season? I mean, it's just great to see her back again. I really love that character of Myrtle Snow. I think Frances Conroy does such a great job with that character, and she served her purpose. She helped stop Michael from ending the world as we know it, so I think her purpose in coming back was fulfilled. Nico Varnava and Mashup God, they have similar questions, and it's basically, how do I feel not knowing that Mallory changed the past so that characters like Moira did not leave the murder house and Dinah still being the voodoo queen? And then Mashup God also left a comment here saying that he or she realized that Mallory going back in time retcons the happy endings that were given to Violet and Moira and Constance, and it also retcons Madison's character development, unless she remembers what happened. Basically wanting to know what are my thoughts on that. As far as like retconning the happy endings in Murder House, again, like I previously said, I wasn't like the biggest fan of the Murder House episode this season, so I don't really mind that. Like, yeah, I'm sad that Moira is still there, but you know, oh well. but that's mean. But like, I don't know, I just wasn't really so emotionally attached to the events that happened in Murder House, because like for me, especially the Tate and Violet wrap up, it felt so fan servicey for me. Yeah, the whole retconning of all the events of the Murder House episode, I don't really mind too much. I've heard theories that as far as Madison's character development is concerned, that the character development of Madison is like still intact because the spirits that went to the afterlife, they still remember what happened. So considering that they still remember what happened despite Mallory's time travel, that means that Madison's character development is still intact. And then Mashup God also had an additional question and wanted to know, do you want the new Antichrist storyline to be revisited in a future season, or are you fine with it being left open-ended in the series? I personally wouldn't mind if we saw that character again in the very last season of American Horror Story, but I wouldn't want an entire season focused on that character because that's kind of what we got this season. So, but I also wouldn't mind if they left it open-ended as well. Johanna wants to know, what did you think of Michael? I love that character. I thought Michael seemed like a very plausible threat, especially in that finale episode of the season. Just seeing him pretty much kill every single person, I was in a lot of distress, as you probably saw from the finale. I really like that character. I think he has a really interesting backstory. I really enjoyed what Cody Fern did with that character. I really hope we see Cody Fern back again in future installments of the series. This next question comes from Shade and also Turkey McDuckin. You guys pretty much asked the same thing, wanting to know what are my thoughts about Madison's character development, character arc. And also Turkey McDuckin wanted to know, how did I think the other characters treated her? Well, in terms of how the other characters treated her, I think it was fair for the other characters to be a little bit like weary of Madison because she has that history of being really freaking shady. But I loved seeing her character arc in this season. I think we really began to saw it in the Murder House episode because she pretty much like went around helping solve these ghost problems, and I think it was a really fitting way to end that character arc by Madison pretty much being completely selfless and sacrificing herself so that the other characters could get away from Michael. I mean, I'm sad that our last view of Madison was her still being stuck in retail hell, but Mallory said that they were gonna come back and get her, so I'm fine with that. Okay, so the next question comes from Twitter at XAYAH0 has two questions. One, what are your thoughts on Myrtle after the show ended? And two, are you going to react to AHS season 9 next year? So I will answer that second question later on in the video. For your first question, what are my thoughts on Myrtle after the show ended? I've always loved Myrtle, and I love her even more after this season. She always delivers the most iconic lines, and like I said earlier, she was so helpful and contingent to the overall strategy and plan of these ladies, and she provided the emotional support for Cordelia. She like is practically a second mother to Cordelia. So I mean, kudos to Myrtle. I love her even more. She's an icon and a queen. The next question comes from Coralia Theophile. But is Jessica Lange the good guy or the bad guy? Because if Michael did get put in the house, could the spawn of Satan have come back at the end? end. I would say Jessica Lange's character Constance is still a good person because by her bringing Michael into the house, I still think Michael would figure out a way, considering that he is the spawn of Satan, to still develop his powers and escape the murder house. Like, he's the spawn of Satan. I'm sure there's a special loophole for him. In my opinion, I think Jessica Lange's character Constance is the good guy because she prevented all of that from happening. Ken Dillon wants to know, any thoughts on Timothy and Emily and all the mystery surrounding them? I mean, we didn't really get too much time with Timothy and Emily, so I don't really have much opinions on them as who they are as like characters individually, but I do feel like they ultimately served their purpose as an Adam and Eve, because by them giving into temptation, that's what helped bring the new spawn of Satan into this world. And actually, oh God, I forget, I'm gonna leave the comment here, but someone made a really great analysis of why Timothy and Emily are an Adam and Eve figure, and then they even worked in the way of, you aren't familiar with the Adam and Eve story, essentially Eve bit the apple and she gave into temptation, and then she gave the apple to Adam, and then they were kicked out of the garden. Adam and Eve, Timothy and Emily in this case, they actually like sort of bit the apple too by using an Apple computer to find the information about Michael and all of that stuff. I will leave the comment on the screen, but they worded that really, really well. Okay, so the next question comes from Richard as well as Stuart Armstrong _ from Instagram. You guys basically asked the same question, and it is, tell us your top 3 favorite American Horror Story apocalypse characters, only the new ones. And then Stuart also wanted to know, and why. 1, Michael. 2, Mallory. I put Coco in S3. I put Michael as number 1 because he was the most interesting to me. He definitely stirred the pot. He caused a lot of tension, interesting backstory. The Michael character is someone that we've been introduced to at the end of the first season of American Horror Story, so it's been a long time coming to see who did this person grow up to become, and he was the catalyst for why we got to go back to the murder house, which was fun. So yeah, I would say he's my number 1. 2 would be Mallory because I just felt like that character was such a beautiful spirit because she was someone who just genuinely was just trying to help people, and she was willing to sacrifice herself, as we saw in the end of the finale. So she did what she had to do. And then number 3 would be Coco. I'm so glad she's not the Supreme, but she's funny. She was a comedic relief. The fact that her and Mallory were actually best friends was very heartwarming to me. So yeah, those would be my top 3. Naveen David wants to know, Venable or Cordelia? Cordelia. Venable, she's so one note. Like, yeah, she's like a really mean person and she has those really bitchy one-liners, but she's so one note. She doesn't even have like a hobby that she likes. Cordelia is just like, ugh, I love Cordelia. So there's that. And then what is my favorite season? Okay, I'm gonna be answering that next. What is my favorite season, and have you watched Hotel yet? I have not watched Hotel yet, so the next group of questions is pretty much the same as Naveen David. Jason Vong asked this, Tristan Doubting asked this, and The Ugliest Art asked this. Could you rank all seasons of American Horror Story, including Apocalypse? What is your favorite season? Disclaimer, again, I have not watched Hotel yet, but I would put Hotel at the bottom, so that's 8. 7 would be Freak Show for me because I felt like that particular season was just so classic Ryan Murphy, being preachy. There were so many lines of Evan Peters that season that were like, hey, we're not just freaks, like, stop calling us freaks. So it felt a bit too preachy to me. That wasn't something that was in line with what American Horror Story had previously done. So yeah, I put that at 7. 6 would be Cult. It was a fine season. I think the reason why, like, at the time it was like a whoa, American Horror Story Cult is because it came out 1 year after the election, and that was like a very controversial time, and a show or a movie hadn't ever really covered the events of the election and hypothetical storyline post the election and how that affected people. It was a fine season, so I put that as 6. 5 would be Roanoke. Even though I hated the finale of Roanoke, I just appreciated that that was something that the show had genuinely not done before. You know how like Ryan Murphy, every time he promotes the show, he's always like, oh, this has never been done before. And it's like, well, that for sure. That time, Roanoke was the season where they had never done anything like that. So I appreciate the risk. I appreciate the risk that they took. I hate the finale, but I thought the idea of a show within a show was pretty cool. 4 would be, this is where it gets tough. You know, I'm gonna put 4, 3. I would flip-flop given like any day between Apocalypse and Coven. I think I would say, honestly, I felt like the story of Apocalypse was tighter than 3, because if you thought there were a lot of loose ends in this season, there were a lot of loose ends in Coven. They eventually found the direction that they were going towards in terms of who's gonna be the next Supreme. The thing for me with Coven is we got Jessica Lange is still there with Fiona Good, we got Angela Bassett in there still, and you know, she did come back, but it was only for like 5 minutes this season. But yeah, it depends on a given day. 2 would probably be Murder House. Murder House would be my second. For me, that was the first season, so special, and I was so scared while watching it, and I really liked the story of it. There's so many iconic moments from Murder House. Like, I remember being shocked when Constance couldn't drag Addie back into the house in time. I remember being like terrified out of my mind when Violet found out that she had actually died. Like, there's so many iconic moments from Murder House, so that'd be my 2, and then 1 would be Asylum. I just really enjoyed the Asylum season because for me, like, when I think American Horror Story, you think of horror, I was so scared watching that season. The setting of an asylum is scary enough, and then like the reveal of who Bloody Face ended up being was like so iconic, and like Lana Winters was ultimate survivor. Like, there was just like a lot of things going on, and I also really loved Anne Frank. By the time they got to Anne Frank part 2, that's when the season really started to pick up. The only thing is like the whole alien storyline I did not like, but yeah, I put that as like my 1 favorite. David Gallan wants to know, can you rank all Sarah Paulsen's characters from best to worst in your opinion? Oh my god, wow. Ooh. I have to go on IMDb to remember what all her characters were. Oh lord, okay, this is gonna be hard because she's played so many people. Wow, this is a hard question. Okay, I need to write this down. Okay, so if I were to rank them really quickly, I'm gonna put Hypodermic Sally at the bottom, not because I don't like her, but because I haven't watched Hotel. The next would be Shelby from Roanoke, because she was really annoying AF. Next would be Audrey Tyndall, because she was also really annoying AF. Out of all the seasons of Horror Story, I think those were the worst Sarah Paulsen characters, so there's that. Bet and Dot I would put as 5. I know they're like 2 different people, but I just let them share spot 5. Honestly, it's really because I don't really remember their character quirks. Like, I do know like one was like a darker character than the other, and they're conjoined twins, but they're not too memorable in my mind. 4 would be Venable, mainly because she had really snarky, mean one-liners. 3 would be Allie Mayfair, because looking at the top 3 that I have here, Sarah Paulsen's characters, they tend to have this arc of people who are weak in the beginning. They seem to not be ready for the circumstance that they are put in, but then over the course of the season, they rise to the occasion and they come out stronger than they were before. Allie Mayfair, of course, I put as number 3 because she was that person. She was a very paranoid, on the edge type of character in the beginning, and then at the end, we see her become like a frickin' boss. And also, I put her at number 3 because she had that iconic scene when she kills Ivy. That was iconic. Number 2 for me would be Cordelia, because reflecting back on the Coven season, she was like literally freaking blind for like a good portion of that season, and then she became like this beautiful goddess supreme by the end of Coven. In this season, we really got to see her being an active supreme, and she just was the supreme that we all want in our life. So I put Cordelia at number 2, and then number 1 would be the iconic Lana Winters, because she is the ultimate survivor. Whenever I think about all the things that Lana Winters went through in Asylum, I'm like, you can get through this day, girl. So I would put her as my number 1 fave. Oh my god, I forgot Billie Dean. Oops. I guess I put Billie Dean. I put Billie Dean before Bet and Dot, mainly because she's kind of like this really snarky character too. But I haven't seen Hotel, so I think you got to learn more about Billie Dean in that season versus Murder House. So yeah, might be subject to change again as well. Okay, the next question comes from Lisa Robinson. She wants to know, which AHS character did you like best? I think, you know, out of the entire series, I'd have to give it up to Lana Winters because she's like so iconic. But of this season, it'd be a tie between Cordelia and Michael, because I felt like they were really good, like head-to-head dynamic duo. So yeah, I'd split them as number 1. Vincenzo Lucia, and going back to XAYAH0's question from Twitter, wants to know if I'm going to be reacting and reviewing American Horror Story 9 next year. Yes, I will. You did not see the last of me. And then the next question also comes from Vincenzo Lucia, but JackMac356 and Brian Freestone pretty much are asking the same thing, and they want to know, what do I think season 9's theme is going to be? I think it's going to be Space Skies, because Mead sang that song in the finale episode when she died, and apparently the song that she was singing comes from the movie Space Odyssey, and I think that is a hint that the next season is going to be taking place in outer space. And also, for the longest time, Evan Peters has been saying throughout multiple interviews that he wants to do a season in space. So I feel like Ryan Murphy is granting his wish in season 9 and they're gonna do space. So I think space is where we're going next. Justin Countryman wants to know if you could pick a theme for AHS, what would it be? Ooh, gosh, that's a great question. I love that question. You know, I'd love to see them do a period piece. I think we've been in like the present day for a while now, like thinking back on like this season, Apocalypse took place like now, Cult took place in present day, Roanoke took place in present day. I'd love to see them do one more period piece. I don't know exactly what period that would be. Like, it'd be cool if we got to see them do something that's like an homage to the film noir films. I would love to see their take on that. I'm really bad at this. That's why I'm not a writer for American Horror Story. Leron is me. He wants to know favorite episode of the season. That's so hard because there's so many different moments that I enjoyed throughout the season, but they all come from different episodes. But I really loved the Forbidden Fruit episode, mainly because I was just so happy to see Cordelia, Myrtle, and Madison again. Like, the joy I felt when I saw them again was just like, I was ready, but I wasn't ready. I was just so excited. That was just such a memorable moment for me in this season, so maybe I'd just say that episode. And the last question comes to us from Edgar Cruz, CZ. He wants to know, how do you think they will handle future seasons, like the possible themes? And of course, do you think it's possible to have another Apocalypse related season? More crossovers, perhaps with Coven? Honestly, I feel like considering we only have 2 more seasons to go, assuming if we do go to space next season, that means they may possibly be able to tie in the whole alien storyline from Asylum. I feel like the next 2 seasons, assuming that those are going to be the last 2 seasons, are going to be referencing previous seasons and characters even more, and we're going to be seeing a lot more crossover. I won't be surprised if they like really reference the prior seasons and we see familiar faces in the future seasons to come, because we're heading towards the end of the show, unfortunately. I'm not really good at predicting what's going to happen when it comes to American Horror Story. Who knows? Maybe we think there's only 2 more seasons and it's gonna actually keep going, because I, for one, this felt like the final season of American Horror Story. So I don't know, we shall see. Okay, so that's about it for this video. I'm sorry it was really, really long. I hope you enjoyed it though. The reason why it's really long is because I wanted to be very thorough with my answers, and I just wanted to make sure I gave each person who asked the question a good answer, considering that you took the time to ask the question. So apologies for this video being really long. More American Horror Story content for you guys. I will definitely be covering American Horror Story again next season. As far as future reaction and review videos on this channel are concerned, I'm going to be taking a break from them for the time being, unless Black Mirror comes out, then I will be covering that show. But next year in January, I'm already going to start filming my upcoming series that I will be covering on the channel. It's one that has been highly requested, so get ready for that. And if you guys have any predictions as to what do you think I will be covering, let me know in the comment section below. I will give you a hint. It's a show that has been highly requested on the channel, has multiple seasons. Yeah, and it's winter. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, but again, before I go for the final time this season from American Horror Story, I just wanted to thank all of you for watching this show with me over the past 10 weeks and talking about it with me. I know this is a very passionate fan base, so I really appreciate you guys watching my videos and engaging in the comments. It really means a lot to me because I do spend quite some time on these videos. So yeah, it's been a fun ride, guys. Thank you so much for being on it with me. If you like this video, again, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and please turn on the notification button down below so you know when a new video from me comes out. Watch my other videos too. I'm still gonna be here even though American Horror Story is off the air. Okay, well, as always, everything I said was just my own personal thoughts and all my humble opinion, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!